Hi, and welcome back to Serial Killers, the podcast all about the pests, diseases and weeds of arable crops. Hi, Josie.
Hello.
So what's today's subject?
Annual meadow grass and rough meadow grass, also known as Poa annua and Poa trivialis.
Yeah, so we've covered a lot of very bad, pernicious weeds and diseases over the weeks on Serial Killers, but this one's probably not a massive issue for arable crops, really.
No.
Would you say? It's more of an annoyance, but it does have some interesting biology and some interesting times that it crops up in fields. So I thought it would be a good one to discuss. So Poa annua. Poa is the type genus for all grasses. So you'll see that the grass family is named the Poaceae, and then Poa annua, meaning that it's an annual plant.
Or short-lived perennial.
Yeah, so a lot of these scientific names are given and then they realise that they're not actually correct, but they don't change them very often.
No.
So there's a beetle named after Hitler, and it's still named after Hitler, but they haven't, because it's not a scientific reason for changing it. It's still there. So Poa annua is still called annua, even though it's a short-lived perennial. Another good one is spider plants.
Yeah.
That's called chlorophyllum or something like that, meaning green-leaved.
Mm-hmm.
And wow, a plant that's green-leaved, that's a really good description.
Yeah.
And also, it's not green-leaved. It's got white bits and yellow bits in it. So, stupidly named plants. Poa annua is one of them. And so it's a short-lived perennial, so it means it's not necessarily going to die off in 1 year, but it can do if it's stressed. So a good example of that is on golf courses in New Zealand, Poa annua gets stressed in the summer, and because it creeps into golf greens and then it just dies off in the summer. You'll often see like New Zealand golfers where all the greens are just dead, and that's a traumatic experience for them.
And that name is a little bit false as well, as in it's more of an ephemeral.
Yep.
Rather than an annual. So an ephemeral plant is a plant that will germinate, grow away, set seeds and die within about 6 weeks.
So it can do 6 weeks or it can do 2 years.
So yeah, what's that about?
Yeah, and also ephemerals often don't have mycorrhizal connections, so they just rely on their own ability to absorb nutrients from the soil, especially bare. And so to do that, they need a lot of free nutrition in the soil. And so that's why you'll find Poa annua on bare land. And that's where it creeps into farmland, is when soil has been left for bare or it's been ploughed, that's when Poa annua will get in. It's not a weed that's going to compete. It will die off and flower and seed before it becomes an issue.
And the seeds become viable literally after 1 or 2 days following pollination. So it's right out there.
Yeah. And even though it dies off, it can still propagate by a rhizome. So it's not just seed. So it's quite a clever plant. It can use both.
The most abundant seed found in soil on footwear. So if you're traipsing around, your footwear will pick up all these seeds and spread them.
I had a professor at university when I was doing my undergraduate at Durham, and her job was to analyse the seeds on people's clothes and pollen on people's clothes when they've committed a crime, and see so they could link them to where a body was found.
Major interesting.
Yeah, or where a safe. So they pack pollen into safes, and when you drill a safe, all this pollen is on your clothes. You don't realise it.
Oh my goodness!
So if you just link it back to what the pollen was in the safe.
Sounds like a fantastic idea for a Netflix movie.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just a Thursday Murder Club book. But there you go. So it's not. We said it's not going to. Poa annua is not going to. Annual meadow grass is not going to affect your yield. It's going to be a pain in certain situations. It might interfere with drilling.
No, you're looking at roughly a reduction in yields of about 6%.
If left unchecked, yeah. And it's going to be affecting across the whole of the UK and Ireland, so it's everywhere, Poa annua.
But one of the bad things about this is that it can act as a host for ergot.
Yeah.
Claviceps purpurea, and we don't like ergot.
We do not like ergot, no.
Ergot is not good for you.
And I think the limits for it are getting lower as well. So something to look after. And then the other species of meadow grass we were going to talk about was rough meadow grass. Is that correct?
Poa trivialis.
And is it trivial?
Well, it's a perennial plant, so it's not that trivial.
Yeah.
And it creeps around, so that's not good either. And it has good drought and shade tolerance, but it likes damp and shady too.
Yeah.
So
it likes compacted, damp soils. So if you're doing no-till, min-till, and you've got compacted soils and you're not dealing with that by other methods, then this could creep in rough meadowgrass. But it's fairly easy to control if you plough. I think the stolons are easy to break up and things like that. So
rough meadowgrass, the seeds need vernalisation, so that's exposure to cold temperatures in the winter to flower the following year. So
yeah, and you don't get flowers in spring cereals, so that sort of breaks the cycle. So rotation's great. So yeah, and then the other species of Poa that we think is of a good species is Poa pratensis, and this is found in turf. And Matthew, who edits our podcast, I put that in just to annoy him because it's got loads of peas in it. And he popping peas of Poa pratensis. He has to edit those all out, you see. Smooth meadowgrass. Okay. Anything else on the meadowgrasses we should...
The rough meadowgrass has started to develop a resistance to some herbicides. So glyphosate, that's kind of an issue there because the resistance is growing.
Yeah.
But you can apply herbicides either before your seeds emerge or after they've emerged.
Yeah, and I think you can get fairly good control, so it's not too bad. It's not like it's the other control methods overcompensate for that lack of control from where there is resistance, but it's something we need to look at. Could be one for the future. Yeah.
Well, like anything, they compete for nitrogen with the other plants that are in the ground, don't they?
Free nitrogen, yeah. Cool. Right. And then I suppose if you've got a mycorrhizal crop, a crop that's got mycorrhizal connections, it'll soon outcompete Poa annua. Brilliant.
Grasses are really a little bit boring, aren't they?
Yeah. So what should we do next then? Next subject.
Flea beetle. Flea beetle.
Flea beetle. No, let's do chocolate spot next.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I am a little bit hungry.
Yeah, there we go. Get the chocolate out and it'll be chocolate spot next week. All right. Thanks very much, Josie.
Thank you.
Ta-ra.